the regular session meeting of the Select Board of January 24th. Everybody please rise for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. DCTV. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United
States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as we offer a moment of silence for our service personnel, both here and abroad, both male and female, and both past and present. And we also offer a moment of silence for our healthcare workers as they battle through day 4,332 of this pandemic. Thank you. I was kind of being a little facetious on the number of days. I think it's a little less than 4,332. All right. I need a motion from somebody from the board to approve the warrant for this week and to allow Mr. McGinnis to use our stamp on the warrant.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
me.
Mr. Gracie. Thank you. On the motion, any questions? Roll call. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Great. All right, 6:30. At 6:41, we have a hearing on a fuel storage upgrade. I'm going to open up the public hearing on that. It's open. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, the applicant is here for an upgrade of the fuel storage tanks. Sorry, I was typing.
All right, it's the application of David Nolan at 9 Commerce Way to add 4,000 gallons of inflammable fluids or propane LP gas in above ground storage tanks. Mr. Nolan, you're here, or somebody on behalf of Mr. Nolan? There he is, Mr. Nolan. All right.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
Good. How you doing?
I'm wonderful outside of the pandemic, of course. Stressful for all of us.
All right. So we have here your request to add storage tanks. Exactly where, I'm trying to recall where this location is.
So a clarification, we're not requesting to add 4,000. As of right, we're allowed 2,000. The request is to increase it to 4,000.
Okay.
And the location is Commerce Way, where we built a purpose-built building to store boats. And it's located right off of 195, just behind Dartmouth Building Supply.
Ah, okay. All right. All right. I purport to know probably every square inch of Dartmouth, but that's not necessarily true. And this one kind of threw me for a loop. So, okay. All right. Do I have anybody in the audience who is in favor of this and would like to speak? Do I have anybody in the audience who is against this who would like to speak? Seeing none. All right. Board members, do you have anything to ask during this hearing, Mr. Herron?
Just curious if Mr. Nolan could inform the public as to what he's going to store in the tanks.
Yes, Mr. Herron. So we're storing propane only for the purpose of heating.
Okay.
And running an auxiliary generator should we lose electricity.
Thank you.
Other board members on this?
Motion to approve.
Oh, not yet, Mr. Mickelson. All right, I'm going to close the hearing. It's now closed. Board members, discussion or motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Herron. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Okay, David, thank you.
Good luck, Mr.
Thank
Nolan.
you.
Yep.
Have a nice night.
Yep, you too.
All right, next item on the agenda, we have the change of office. At 6:33, we have a change of officers and directors, LLC managers, Shaw Supermarket. And I believe I see a guy wearing a suit, and that's Nick Zazzola.
Yes, Mr. Chair. How are you tonight?
Good, how you doing?
Good, good. Yeah, Attorney Nick Zazula here on behalf of McDermott, Quilty, and Miller, and the Shaw's Supermarkets at 15 State Road. So just here on behalf of the licensee, Shaw's Supermarkets, for an administrative housekeeping item. This is for a change of officers and directors application for the licensee. One of the directors on the liquor license retired recently, Cynthia Garnett. So she has been replaced as a director by John Scuchamara, who's one of the licensee's vice presidents. So we are looking to update that on the license with the town. Another officer has left the company, Laura Donald. She's been removed from the license altogether as well. So we're looking just to update those individuals to be current with what's on file with the Secretary of State, as we're required under the liquor license laws. The rest of the names in the liquor license remain unchanged. There's no change to any of the operations of the store, hours, layout, the manager of records, store director, all of that remains the same. So just changing some paperwork from the licensee on a corporate level, but pretty straightforward. But of course, happy to answer any questions that you or any of the board may have. And thank you for your time.
Okay, great. Board members, any questions? Pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I thought I heard a voice somewhere, but I saw John's lips move. So I'm going to say Mr. Harron made the motion, seconded by Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right,
Thank you. Have a good night.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 6:36 at 6:46. We have a transfer of an aquaculture license. And I believe we have Mr. Caravana is here along with Scott Soers. And I believe the harbor, yep, there he is, the harbor master. All right. So, all right. So Steve, you want to run this, or you want Mr. McGinnis to take it?
Oh,
Okay.
we don't want to run it that way.
Yeah, no. All right, Mr. McGinnis, go ahead.
This is a transfer of an aquaculture license. I think, Mr. Mello, the harbor master, would be better to explain the extent of the the aquaculture license. And this has been in the works. So, as you recall, it was on the agenda of the last meeting, but the agreement hadn't been completely finalized. I believe the agreement between the parties is now finalized. And I think it's been reviewed by the harbor master. And Steve can kind of elaborate on that, but I think it's ready to transfer.
Thank you.
Mello?
Pidnam Oysters are our first aquaculture venture in Dartmouth. It's in the southeast corner of the harbor. It has been hugely successful. We learned a lot from the private enterprise on the growth of oysters and the improvement to our waterway. The project is not without its share of work, and I don't blame Mr. Caravana for realizing now that it's not going to be an easy retirement gig, because Mother Nature is always throwing curveballs at the project, and it does take some effort, which he has put in over the years, and I commend him for it. But he certainly put Dartmouth on the map when it comes to aquaculture, and he's looking to semi-retire, at least from this aspect of the business. And I think we couldn't have found better candidates to take over the operation of the LLC. So from my perspective, everything appears to be in order, and I encourage the board to accept or adopt the transfer. I think we can look for growth in the future wherever possible, at least in this area. It seems to be thriving, as I said earlier. And I welcome Scott and his mother to the waterway.
Great. All right, Steve, do you have anything you want to say? If you do, you got to turn on your video, and there you go.
Yeah, the video is not working, Sean.
That's okay.
I just want to say that I really appreciate the support from the town for the past 7 years. it's been a great opportunity for me. I think I offered the community a valuable resource. I think that area of the harbor is probably much cleaner now than when I started. And like I said, I really appreciate the town, and especially for all the support that Steve Mello's given me over the years. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it without him. But anyway, I wish Scott and his mom, Mary, the very best. I think they're going to enjoy themselves there. It was something that, I always wanted to do, and I can say I did it. And I think it's time to move on, like Steve said, into semi-retirement mode.
Okay, Scott. All right.
Yeah,
anything,
likewise, I want to thank the board and thank Steve for his, both Steves, actually, for their kind words for us coming back. We've been our family in Dartmouth for a long time, and I've been fortunate to work with aquaculture growers around the state, shellfish growers in particular, and around the world, in fact, for a long time. And finally excited to be, getting a start at doing the farm, thanks to Steve Caravana's good work to get the farm up and running. In fact, we were just out today, and Steve Mello, to your point, there weren't any other boats out there with us breaking the ice over there at the landing. We were heading out there, but everything looks great, in great shape. The oysters are growing, and right now, actually, they're static. They're not growing at this point, but they've been growing, and everything looks fine. And we're really looking forward to making a go of it and continuing the great work that Steve Caravana has started over there. So we appreciate the opportunity to be considered for this transfer, and look forward to meeting more of you in person at some point when we're able to do that.
Terrific. Board members, any questions? Mr. Herron, then Mr. Gracie.
Scott.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the town have your personal telephone number? I've been trying to reach you for a USDA question for a couple of months.
Oh, I can give it right now live on Zoom if
it's up to you, but I didn't want you to do that, but if you want to, that's fine.
Well, maybe
Yeah, no
share it with the harbor master, and he can pass it.
Yeah, the
along.
harbor master will be fine.
What a good idea.
Yep,
Yeah.
happy to do that. And just to clarify, I was with USDA Rural Development until 2020, or sorry, until the last election, 4 years ago, 2016, 2017. And since that time, I've started doing consulting work. So a lot of my work actually is with the Massachusetts Aquaculture Association. So that's probably why you can't get me through rural development if you have those numbers over there at USDA Rural Development. But happy to talk with anyone about that. I still, part of my consulting work, I still do quite a bit with USDA, and would be happy to talk with you about that.
Thank you.
Mr. Gracie?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to transfer the license and also thank Mr. Caravana for the work he did at the beginning of this. He was clearly a trendsetter, and I appreciate it.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, great, terrific. Motion made by Mr. Gracie, and to transfer the license, and also to send a great deal of thanks to Mr. Caravana, and also hoping that best wishes to Mr. Soers. Seconded by Mr. Herron on the motion. Any questions? Being none. Roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes, with pleasure.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Of course, yes.
Chair votes in favor. Good luck.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Steve.
Happy fishing.
Look forward to seeing you out there. Maybe not in February.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
All right.
That was painless.
Okay, next item on the agenda, we have a library update to the select board. Lynn Antunes.
Well,
Council on Aging
congratulations.
All right, wait a
update.
minute.
You own an oyster farm.
Done deal.
You own an oyster farm.
All right, where are we?
Okay.
Okay, all right, Lynn, you're up.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I certainly can.
Okay. Well, the libraries are fully open and fully staffed. Southworth's open 60 hours a week. North is open 43 hours a week. That means 103 hours of staffing that we have to cover because it's the two different buildings. We're providing all our usual services. We are not requiring face masks, although they are strongly encouraged. The public spaces at both buildings are now available for patron use, and people are using them. The staff can be, they can help the patrons out more with computers and things. The children's librarian is doing live story times and baby songs. We figure it's up to the parents. If they feel it's okay, it's safe for their child, that they can bring them into the program. She is also visiting Cushman School every week on a regular schedule and visiting the kindergarten classes and doing stories with them, because none of the school Dartmouth schools are not doing field trips right now because of COVID, and visiting the library is considered a field trip. So since they can't come to us, she's going to them, and that's working out well. So things are going well here, from my point of view. I don't know if you have questions. I can see that our circulation's going up. It's not back where it was pre-COVID, but it's going up. Our use of electronic resources is higher now because that was available through the whole pandemic. And last year, it jumped from 29,979 in FY20. In FY21, it was up to 34,609 uses of our electronic resources. Let's see, what else did I figure out here? And we're gradually seeing patrons, the count increasing. Many people are still kind of hesitant to come out. They prefer to have, they'll come in and pick up books at the library, check them out, but they don't really want to spend a lot of time here. But we're up and running. Any questions?
I guess that's the most important thing, to get it up and running. All right, hands first. Last time Mr. Herron went first, so this time I'm going to let Mr. Gracie go.
Thank you. I was just curious. A couple of weeks ago, we talked to Chris Michaud about masks and that sort of thing. And I thought we all decided that nothing would go maskless until at least February 28th. Where does this fit in that?
Well, we have been maskless for quite a while, and I have not gotten any word that we should be making that a requirement. If that's happened, then I was outside the loop for that to happen.
There hasn't been a requirement in town to provide a requirement for masks. It's always been a recommendation. We follow the state and the governor's guidelines and CDC, and it's been a recommendation for masks for the unvaccinated. I think Amy was in a few weeks ago to talk about, maybe a month ago, to talk about, when Omicron was starting to peak, about what she was doing at the COA. And that's why she's here tonight, to give an update on that. But no, the masks have not been required.
Yeah, we do have signs up on the doors and other places saying masks are strongly recommended. And most of my staff are wearing masks. All my desk staff are still wearing masks. And we also have all the barriers, all the plexiglass barriers up still. I have no intention of taking them down. So we let people make their independent decisions, but most people are wearing them. I don't feel at this point, since it's not a governor's order, I can't require it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Herron.
I was just curious if you could give us an update on the water issue in the building, and how much longer do we have on the guarantee from the contractors for their work on that building?
Do you want, Lynn, do you want Cody to answer that? Because I know Cody's been directly involved with it.
Yeah, Cody might actually be better, because I'm not a construction person. I'm a library person. That's what I'm familiar with. So he might do a better job than me.
All right, Cody, can you give us an update, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the contractor has been working with the town diligently. There were a few items that we've addressed, and they've addressed those over the last month. And let's see, last week they ran a water test where they had 2 hoses that ran for 3 days straight on top of an inch of rain that we got, and we have not had water in the building. So we are pretty confident that the leak has been fixed, and we're going to move forward. There's a few other items that we're going to address just as a precautionary measure, but we feel like we've fixed the issue.
How much longer do we have on an insurance, on a guarantee from the builders for their work?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I can take a look tomorrow and get that information over to you.
Yeah, generally, as part of new construction, the warranty is 1 year from the certificate of occupancy. So that has passed. The building's has received its certificate of occupancy well over a year ago. So there's no more warranty.
All right. Anything else on Mr. Tattlebaum?
Hi, Lynn. Nice.
Hi.
Always do a great job. Are there any other, dealing with COVID? I know that you run a part of a great network of libraries all over the area. Are you aware of any other, shall we say, successful issues or programs that might be of some possibility in a COVID world that we might want to consider, or are we pretty much doing what we can do?
Well, I don't know what else we could add. As I said, we're kind of back to normal as we were before pre-COVID, except for the numbers of people coming in and using libraries. The Friends are planning programs because of this surge in the COVID cases over the holidays, December, January. They decided to postpone their Molly Little film series program for a couple of weeks, but they are planning to do it. I think we're doing what we can do at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know, I skipped over the Council on Aging. Didn't do it on purpose. I just looking, I saw that. I know we're going to keep Amy around for a little bit. So while we still have the library here, I'm going to take up the next item, which is the North Branch Community Room. Lynn or Stanley?
Stanley, do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
I can do it if you want.
Okay. Well, I think it'd be good coming from the chairman of the board.
Well, Lynn suggested to the trustees that it would be a good idea, given the service that Suzanne McDonald has provided as a trustee over the years, and especially her service as a very hardworking chair of the library building committee, that we named the community room after her. And that passed very quickly. Everybody was very enthusiastic about it. And we look forward to having her name on the room.
Lynn, do you want to add to that, Lynn, please?
Yeah, we'll be adding a plaque, I would say, and I'll want to consult with your family, Sean, probably about wording of it. And do you want a photograph of Suzanne there? I know the community room equivalent at Southworth is called the Elsie Haskell room, and it does have a photograph of Elsie Haskell, and there's a plaque there. So we'll just need to come up with details for how we do this.
Mr. Talbot?
I'd like to make a motion wholeheartedly that we authorize the naming of the community room in honor of Susan McDonald, and that the library trustees will coordinate that effort with the McDonald family and come up with a solution. And I think it's a wonderful thing to honor a great person.
I'll gladly second
that. Motion made by Mr. Tattlebaum, seconded by Mr. Mickelson. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
The chair is going to abstain. I I don't know what to say. On behalf of my mother, my family, we appreciate this wholeheartedly. And it didn't hit me until just now when you said that the other meeting room was dedicated to Elsie Haskell. The honor of this is just absolutely profound. I really don't know what to say other than thank you on behalf of the entire family. She's sorely missed, that's for sure. But thank you.
John, is it appropriate that we consider that you'd vote? Because I think your vote is as important as any of ours. A unanimous vote entirely including you, but that's your choice. But I think it's appropriate.
Well, I have a hard time voting anything that has anything to do with anybody related to my family. And I'll be honest with you, this is the first time this is anything like this, and or even anything to do with my family other than voting the approval for my mother on the Conservation Commission or on the Council on Aging. So if the board would like, I would like to rescind my abstention and vote in favor.
Please
Good
do.
choice. Good choice, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank
May
you.
you
all.
rest in-
Bye,
may you rest in peace.
Appreciate it. It's hard to continue, but thank you, Board of Trustees. Lynn, I appreciate it. Now we're going to go back to the top of the new business agenda and see Council on Aging closing update. Amy DiPietro. Amy?
Hi, good evening. A well-deserved honor, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Council on Aging, as you all know, has been closed to the public since December 27th. We have been reassessing the situation on a weekly basis. We were really planning on opening our doors again next Tuesday, February 1st. I did speak with Christopher Michaud, the director of the Board of Health today, and he feels that the numbers are still high. They're right back where they were January 1st. So his suggestion is to remain closed to the public until further notice. We do plan on meeting again at the end of next week. We're hoping to open the week of February 7th, but realistically, it will probably be the middle of February. Our offices continue to remain open to the public. Our staff is there to answer any questions or concerns. We are providing transportation to medical appointments and other essential appointments. We do ask, per state guidelines, that you wear a mask. And we do suggest that our participants and drivers have been fully vaccinated. Our outreach services are available to anybody in need. We have a COVID vaccination clinic scheduled for this Wednesday from 3 to 5 p.m. It's offering the Pfizer or the Moderna first, second, or booster shots. So if anybody out there needs an appointment, please give us a call and we will schedule you one. We also have one of the things that has actually been very busy over the past few months and really always has been, but we have a durable medical loan program. So if anybody's in need of walker, wheelchair, canes, commodes, raised toilet seats, we usually have them for the Dartmouth community. So give us a call and we'll be able to set one up. We will leave it outside for you, actually. And then we currently have 47 of our programs posted on our YouTube site and DCTV. I believe it's channel 18.
Okay. All right, board members? Mr. Tattlebaum.
One quick question, Amy. Thanks for the work you do as well.
Thank you.
I had a request. In years past, I believe we did tax returns for,
Yes.
and I was asked to ask the question of where that, I know it's a difficult year, but where you stand on that issue.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. It is in my notes and I glanced over it. We are hoping to offer tax assistance this year. We've been in touch with the volunteers. They're just working out their schedule with AARP right now. So we don't have a schedule in place, but we do hope to hold assistance with tax preparation. I should also point out that right now we have the podiatrist. Our clinicians are still scheduled. So if people have an appointment with the podiatrist, actually he's scheduled for tomorrow, that appointment will be honored. We've set him up in the Bullard Center. So we're starting to use the center across the way. The clinics will also be held at the Bullard Center.
So will you make some kind of announcement on the tax as well?
Absolutely. Yep. As soon as we know. Next week, our February newsletter will be hitting the stands. We're planning as if we were opening on next Monday. So our newsletter we have a full schedule. Unfortunately, as the weeks go by, we just keep pushing everything off. So you'll be able to see all the programs and services that we hope to offer as soon as we can open our doors. But as soon as we hear about the taxes, we'll definitely, if I can come back here and announce it through this venue, that would be great. And we'll also put it out on social media. And as always, please just give us a call and we'll answer any question.
It'd be before April 15th.
I would assume so. He did. I spoke with Bob. I can't remember his last name. He's volunteered for years with us, and he did reach out to us about 2 weeks ago. So we should know any day now.
Thank you, Amy.
I believe actually it's April 19th for Massachusetts residents.
Oh, thank you, Sean. What about the Fed return?
15th.
Thank you.
That was the 19th.
Okay. All right. Anybody else from the board? Okay.
Great job.
All right. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks,
Thank
Amy.
you.
Great job, Amy. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the Memorial Day preparation. Veteran Service Officer, Matt Brulette. Matt?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
We're doing well, thank you. So I just wanted to touch base with you in regards to the Memorial Day preparations. I know it's sad to believe we're already talking about it, but I'd rather get ahead on it. So I sent in to the packet there. I hope you can see the formal invitation that will be sent out in mid-February. I have 14 formal invites going out to different organizations throughout the town and the community. The parade will be on the usual route, starting at the landing and ending at the old police station, stopping at the Elm Street Cemetery in between. So I just kind of wanted to make you aware of what we were doing, and alternately, if the COVID is still present, we will have a memorial service at the cemetery as we did, I believe, in 2020.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. I wish I could have another moment off the topic, if you don't mind, in regards to the hero banners on Elm Street.
Yes.
So it's been brought to my attention, and I took a look at them. They're starting to become sun bleached, as well with their proximity to the salt air. The flags have become worn with the ocean wind and have become tattered and frayed. I've been in touch with Sean's office as well as the original vendor, which was Brewer Banners out of New Bedford, and have requested new banners to be made. The new ones, I believe, may be suitable for this year, but I believe we don't want to go down that road where they're up and not looking as they should. So.
Good job.
Great. I only wish that the ones that we couldn't get photos for,
absolutely,
somehow we could find them.
Yeah.
That I would have really been happy if all the banners had a photograph of the person. But I know when you're dealing with World War I, it was kind of difficult, and especially if families have moved away.
Absolutely.
But,
And we
yeah,
should be
thank you.
getting those, not a problem. We should be getting those banners too, for the springtime too, to have those hung on Elm Street for the this year's parade.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Talbot.
Matt, great job
Yes, sir.
as well.
Thank you.
Are you gonna need some help financially on those flags?
As I mentioned to Sean when I had when the project was originally conceived, I believe Mr. McDonald, you were the driving force behind it. So the information I received was I got it through Roy's work, and I went back through some old things and contacted Brewer and got the updated price on it, and was advised by Sean to go ahead and move forward with it.
Good.
We're able to cover it in our existing budget.
Great, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Matthew.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, we have the Board of Public Works with the job description and postings. All right, Mr. McGinnis, and I believe Mr. Almey's here along with Tim Barber.
Yes. So Mr. Almy from the Board of Public Works is interested in reposting the position for the Public Works Director. They've reviewed the current job description and are interested in making some minor edits to the job description. So I asked the chair to come in and explain what their desire is, and to get the board's approval and to repost the position.
Okay, Mr. Almy.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We had Ron Lavelle, who is the former Public Works Director in New Bedford, volunteer to take a look at this. We had a discussion at our last meeting, and the only change we've made is to under licenses and certifications. There were 4 requirements, and we felt that 3 of the 4 requirements were not absolutely necessary for the director of a department. We still believed that it's appropriate to require a Massachusetts driver's license. However, the professional engineering license, the grade 5 wastewater certification, and the water system certification, we think are desirable or preferred, but we want to cast as wide a net as possible. So we think that that those don't need to be requirements.
How does this fit in with other locales and their requirements for this position?
It's very rare for a public works director to be a certified water system operator or a wastewater operator. It's fairly common for them to have worked up through the ranks and have a professional engineer license, but it's typically not required, because much of the focus of public works director, particularly for a town the size of Dartmouth and larger, is administrative. And while they need to know the stuff, they don't need a professional engineer. Simply that license allows stamping of plans. And usually the public works director is not the person who would stamp and approve and sign plans.
Okay, Mr. Mickelson.
Yeah, quick question, Mr. Almy. Then who is going to sign off on these plans then?
We've proposed to recruit for a town engineer. By recruiting for a town engineer, you have someone who's able to focus entirely on the kinds of engineering plans that the Public Works is likely to see, and to be in a better position to take full responsibility for those plans.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Herron.
One of the key goals for the select board is to conduct public works operational study on wastewater, solid waste, etc. I was wondering if we could do that study before we hired someone as the head of the DPW. So when they come here, they'll have a full knowledge of the pros and cons of our system. I think it's necessary we do it now.
I believe that was in the works, correct, Mr. McGinnis, or what has happened to that?
It's not in the works. It's stalled. That's why it's in the goals. A few of you had mentioned that that's something you would like to see in light of the water quality and testing, more the media, but also as there's been a changeover from the previous director and the new one, that it was desirable to kind of review the operations for you all. We're recommending to review the operations to move forward. So that's why it's included, and that's what you asked for.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
At our last meeting, the board was able to identify funding for the first phase of a comprehensive look at the water supply system, and we have approved a contract for the first phase. We will ask for funding for the second phase in town meeting, but we felt that it was appropriate to get that going. However, that doesn't directly address Selectman Herron's question or comment. I think there are two ways to look at it. One is that we will be in the middle of this study when we hire a new director, if we're lucky enough to get somebody on board. And I think that the need for a public director and the need for the study are both significant enough that we shouldn't hold one up for the other. That's my own opinion on this, but that's kind of the premise that we're working under.
Yeah, makes sense, Mr. Elmy.
Oh, I would agree, but sometimes I wouldn't necessarily disagree. But then again, the agreement part is knowing that this is going on, and the person, if they were to hire before this was completed, the study was completed, would still have some say into the study as to where they want to see where it goes. But it would also provide them a blueprint as to how the town wants the department to be looked at and whatnot. There have been some changes in other departments over the years in looking at the way they handle things. But to be honest with you, I don't recall anything in the DPW. And I think it's the DPW has a very good reputation in the town, except when it comes to mailboxes in the snow. But overall, it has a very good reputation, and people have a tendency to be very positive about the DPW and the work that they do. But what we really need to focus on is the administration of the DPW and also the supervision of the DPW, and how everything trickles down, and how everything's handled, especially at the supervisory level, where you have supervisors in charge of, a small crew or a large crew overall, and how they handle that personnel. And I think that's very key, because that's part of keeping a retention of employees. And it's important that we allow the growth of these of the employees. Let's say let's go with the solid waste guys. Okay, I know over the period of the last few years, there's been a turnover in the solid waste personnel, especially from the personnel on the trucks. And what I like to see is some type of a system in place where you encourage, a laborer to work, and then evolve that laborer into a driver, and then that driver to, other parts of other licenses, so that, you have the driver of the truck, then all of a sudden they can go to a heavier vehicle or a loader and whatnot. And then eventually, maybe at some point in time, get to be a point where they can be, get into a supervisory role, because there's nothing better than having a supervisor than actually who's somebody who's been there before, knows how to do that, and knows how it is. And I think that's important. But what's also more important with the supervisory role is how they handle and treat the people that they supervise. That's that's a key. And I think a format or a survey so that it gives the department and the town a blueprint of that and how things are to be handled, I think is very important. I don't have a problem with this being done in coinciding with getting a superintendent on board. So somebody had a hand up. David, you had his hand up. Mr. Almy.
Thank you.
And then we'll get to you after David. Mr. Tattlebaum, sorry. Then
Mr. Almy, I have great respect for what you have done over there, considering you have virtually a whole new board taking on a task you are. It's a giant department, and I really appreciate what you're doing there. For my own clarification on the certification, the engineering is the one that I had the question on. So just to understand it, it's going to be more effective to have these engineering stamps done by people who are actually involved day to day, as opposed to having to have the director. And that, therefore, it makes it maybe easier or different in finding a director because they don't have to have that certificate. Is that fair to say? Or
Yeah, I know that in the past, the department director was the licensed civil engineer and did stamp or sign the plans as necessary. But you do want to think a little bit about the span of control in that department, where engineering plans are an important part of the project, but of the department. But you have other divisions that don't require engineering plans on a regular basis. And so it just seems to make more sense to hire a town engineer. And by the way, the town engineer is conceived to provide services to other departments as necessary. That's kind of the model we're working on. That's the position description we found simply hadn't been filled for many years, but that's the concept. I'd like to go back to Selectman McDonald's observations about providing a pathway for professional advancement. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely couldn't agree with you more. One of the things that I personally have seen over the last couple of years, and that I think we've taken a big step to address, has to do with grievances. The grievances we've been dealing with at the board level have, at least in my mind, appeared to be based on or driven by structural issues having to do with some changes that occurred a number of years ago during a reevaluation of the department, in fact, of the town, and the way certain positions were assigned levels. And we've just spent 2 months, and the board has approved a series of changes that we've provided to the town administrator that are intended to address some of those structural changes. And they have to do with, among other things, equity among jobs that have the same level of responsibility, and also probably just as importantly or more importantly, to show that pathway. And as I said earlier, I couldn't agree with you more. That's a very important part of how our personnel is structured. And it would be more than just within one of the portions of the department. So people could go from, say, solid waste to water treatment if they felt they wanted to. So there'd be those kinds of opportunities as well.
I just used the solid waste because I know there's been a high
Good
turnover
example.
there. So,
A good example.
yeah. Board members? Anyone else? All right. Mr. McGinnis, this requires a vote from the board?
For a
Or
change
an
of the,
reaffirmation or an affirmation?
yeah, so this is a personal contract position. So generally, if it was a union position, any change to the job description would have to be collectively bargained. While this is not, the board can vote to modify position, the job description, and re-advertise the position.
Okay. All right, board's pleasure, Mr.
So a
Mickelson,
motion to modify the position as proposed tonight
and to repost.
and to repost.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, on the motion, any questions? All right, being none, roll call vote, Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
No.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. Okay. All right, let's see what,
Thank you, gentlemen.
let's see how this turns
Thank
out.
you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Elmy. Thank you very much for all your work.
All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, we have, not the one that I really like. Kind of upset about this. Resignation of Jim Mathis from the Broadband Committee. I understand why. Yeah, it's taken a lot, he's got a lot on his plate now. But man, I tell you, we would have lost a valuable member of that Broadband Committee. Yeah. So, and Mr. Mathis, if you're listening, I'm upset, but understand. Do I need to have a motion to accept the resignation and to post the vacancy on the town's web page, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion made by Mr. Gracie, seconded by Mr. Harron. On the motion, any questions? None. Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, let's see. Next, we have the appointment of John, oops, wait a minute, wrong mouse. I'm working two mouses here. Oh, there's two mices? Two mouses?
Mises.
Mises. We were informed by Mr. Haddad that Stuart McGregor and John Souza's terms were up in June of 2021. The one question that I have, was Mr. Souza the planning board representative on the CPC, or was he at large?
He was at large.
Okay.
When he resigned from the planning board, the select board appointed him as an at-large member.
Okay. All right, so we have the reappointment of John Souza and Stuart McGregor to the CPC. Is there a motion?
Motion to reappoint both Mr. Souza and Mr. McGregor.
Okay.
Second.
Made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Harron. On the motion, any questions?
No.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. Okay, next item on the agenda, we have the FY23 budget preparation guidelines. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, so annually, Mr. Barnes and myself developed this memo to go out to staff to prepare their budgets for the following fiscal year. As you can see, it's maintaining a level funded budget for all departments, with the exception of any collective bargaining agreements. One item we added this year, and it was in line with the select board goals, is to reevaluate their organizational staffing plans. So I think, you can read in the memo, one thing we've learned in the pandemic is, the town has really modified the way it provides services to the community. Things have changed, so departments have changed with that. So we want department heads to take, a closer look at their departments to see how they're providing services now and what's the best way to do that. They may be doing that currently, but it's worth looking at, particularly in light of, we've talked a lot about succession planning and developing staff to take over positions. This is in line with our discussion we just had with the Department of Public Works, where they're looking at changing their staffing model. Tim Barber and I have talked about this as well, where, and this is in line with your other goal, is to really evaluate the Department of Public Works, is to, have a consultant come in, look at best management practices, best staffing practices, what's the best way to staff a DPW organization, but also what's the best way to staff some of our other departments. So it's a great exercise for the department heads and to really look at, like I said, the services the town offers now, how those services are offered. A lot of them are online. So how do we leverage that to adjust staffing so that we can better provide services in the future in light of what we've experienced during the pandemic? So with that, we just wanted to get the board's review of the memo and, approval of the exercise for the departments.
Read the whole thing. I find it to be a good tool to start and to go through and have the other departments go through it. I do remember a time when I was on the finance committee, I tried to implement zero-based budgeting. That didn't go over well.
No.
That didn't go over well at all.
I wonder why.
Mr. Tattelbaum.
John, this is a great work, great guideline. I'm not surprised you get mass quits after people have to look at the job they got to do for this. But question: the online permitting process is really in full swing, and do you think some of the reviews of these staffings will have is it viable that this term around budgeting will be affected by the fact that we're doing more online? Is it just too soon to tell its effect and how?
No, it definitely it has a significant effect. Our online services have really streamlined operations. It's reduced a lot of redundancy, a lot of data entry, but a lot of paper. There's the building department does not take paper applications anymore, so that's been a huge efficiency. So, when we look at staffing, we say, well, how can we provide better service? Last year, I don't know if you remember, the Board of Health, they eliminated a clerical position because of our online services, but also used that money to fund a new inspector position. So we have another person out in the field, providing assistance, which is a greater value to the community and to, the businesses in the community as well. So that's what we want the staff to look at, but also, as you heard me mention, succession planning and developing staff so that, we've talked a lot about department heads, retiring or leaving, and there's a lot of vacancies currently in the state for a lot of positions that, many towns did not develop staff. So we want to kind of set a path forward to make sure that the town is well run continuously, no matter, what we have for staffing in place.
The second part of that question would be, what's the next area or department's going to get the next jolt of online permitting?
Right now, we're probably the next month will be planning and zoning and conservation. So those are the three we're working with simultaneously. We are in the process of looking at online sticker sales, beach sticker sales. So I don't know if we'll be able to launch that this spring, but certainly for next year. And then also, we'd like to do transfer station stickers as well with that. So
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, do I have a motion to approve the memo and to have Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Barnes forward the memo to the appropriate departments?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion made by Mr. Mickelson, since he said something, even though David raised his hand. David, I'm going to say you seconded the motion on the motion. Any questions?
No problem.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Tattelbaum.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
And the chair, so enthusiast.
If Mr. Chair, if I can add as well.
So I'll go in favor.
Okay. I sent you an email today from Mr. Barnes that we had our bond rating agency in. Mr. Barnes and the finance team and everyone in town worked very hard. We talk about our strong financial policies. The town was rated a AAA rating again, and we maintain that in light of the economy and the pandemic. Maintaining that AAA bond rating is a significant accomplishment for the town. So Mr. Barnes is here, and he deserves kudos for that, along with the finance team that helped to pull all the information together. But it's a lot of work that goes into, with the support of the select board and the finance committee and all the departments, to be as fiscally responsible as possible. And it shows when we have to get a bond rating, and to maintain that AAA is like I said, a significant accomplishment. So wanted to mention that.
Great.
I tell you, anytime I see AAA, first thing that comes to mind is, of course, the vehicle stuff. But
You're
when
getting your car
I see it
towed. Yeah.
related to the town of Dartmouth, it's like wonderful, because I know we're going to get the best rates, and I know that's through a lot of hard work with you, Mr. Barnes, and with you, Mr. McGinnis, but also it's a reflection on the entire financial organization of this town. And that's the finance committee, everybody involved. And it's just, it's wonderful to get to see that. And believe me, when it comes time to issue these bonds and seeing the notes, it's wonderful to see those interest rates on the little mini side. So great work, Mr. Barnes.
Tremendous accomplishment.
Yep. Don't look so enthused over there, Mr. Barnes. We appreciate it. So,
great job, Mr. Barnes.
right. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, we have the 2022-2023, I should say FY23 Select Board goals. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, I was at the last meeting. I presented the draft goals, as I mentioned, after meeting with most of you to discuss what your outlook for the future of the town is, both short and long-term goals. I put those together and incorporated them into 6 goals with key actions underneath those, and a small mission statement. And this will be, we get many requests for direction from the board, which you've given, but this lays it out what your goals are for the year to obtain. And I wanted you to review it and present any questions, comments, edits, anything. So we're here tonight to
right.
review that.
Any questions? Any comments?
I think we went over.
I saw Mr. Gracie's hand go up first. Beauty before age, Mr. Mickelson.
Really, I think I got both of them, but it's all right.
That's because you're old. You think that. I was the one that held this up last time. I wanted to spend another couple of weeks to review this. I think it's a good document. I will say that people tend to look for these documents for answers, and in many cases there aren't answers. They're just guidelines, and that's okay as long as everybody recognizes that. Depending on what the discussion part of that is, I could very easily see, 5 different answers from us on an answer to a question based on that. But that's okay. It generates discussion, and that's good. So I'm okay with it now.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mickelson.
No, I'm good. I almost was going to say the same thing. I thought we discussed most of this, and I know Frank had some concerns.
Mm-hmm.
So given the fact that Frank has no more concerns, I think it's a great piece put together. This is going to be on the town's website. Yes.
Yes, and we'll share it with all the boards and committees as well, so they know. It's nice that the whole town is moving in the same direction as presented by the select board, so that when boards and committees and staff and departments are acting, they have these goals in the back of their mind, so they can work towards everyone moving in the same direction. Like I said,
yeah,
and everybody will know what we're trying to accomplish as a board with the help of our.
One of the things that we did is we adopted a code of conduct for our board, and I think it's very important that the other boards follow along, especially the elected boards. So they can take that code of conduct that we adopted and they can tailor it to themselves or change the names so it fits their committee or whatever, however they want to handle it. But I think it gives them a good template to go with it. So, Mr. Talbot.
As I said last week or 2 weeks ago, I think this is a great guideline. Frank, I think I'm agreeing with you in the sense that this is now up to us as a leadership in town to make sure this happens and bring people in the room who can voice their opinions, bring them to the Zoom, and make it a process that works. In an attempt to be hopefully not self-serving, there's one thing I'd like to mention. It's small on page 57. John talks about long-range strategic planning regarding the harbor plan. He says to support Waterways Committee. I would like to add support Waterways Committee and the Harbor Management Plan Implementation Committee, because I think that they will play a significant role along with Waterways to make sure that happens.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Do I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt as amended by Mr. Tattlebaum.
Second.
Second, that was Mr. Gracie. Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Gracie. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote, Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, good job. All
Great
right,
job.
next we have license renewals, and all license renewals are subject to the police chief, fire chief, and director of inspectional services, as well as their current tax standing. Common Vic, we have Java Shack.
Are they still in business?
Java Shack?
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes, because every once in a while, somebody who's on my Facebook feed posts a container from Java Shack.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know
I can tell you they're open. I'm a regular customer of their coffee, so
Oh, there you
great.
go. There you
All
go.
they
Somebody's
were
got a
there
coffee
today.
fix.
So Sean, the next time you go in, ask them where the, never mind.
Yeah, why don't they have a license? Yes.
Yeah. Motion to.
Now they do, so now I can feel comfortable going there.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Mickelson to approve the common vic for Java Shack. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Herron. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, and I'm assuming that Dockside, John George, Pizonis, which is in the process, Smith Mills, Village Cafe have not applied, but they will be. I will personally reach out to somebody from Smith Mills to remind her that she has to do it. I did it last year, so I think she probably forgot. And I'm assuming the class twos, the Elite and Jaden have not applied.
No, those are the common Vics that have not applied. These two class twos are applied. You have to vote on them.
Okay, they are applied. Okay, so I just see have not applied. Okay, all right. So with the licenses, we have class two license, Elite Auto Sales and Jaden Auto.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Herron. On the motion, any questions? Okay, let's see, roll call vote, Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, that concludes new business. Under old business, anything relative in COVID?
No,
If
I
say
think,
something new, who the hell knows what's gonna
yeah,
happen?
you heard the updates, what we're doing in light of COVID. We're hoping this Omicron surge is on the decline. I think the numbers are showing that it is, so that's positive. Amy was, saying we're being cautious and making sure that when we do reopen, that everything is safe, but we continue to monitor, the state and the CDC, Department of Public Health guidelines. Bliss Corner, no new updates. We continue to work on an access agreement with the EPA to provide them some storage space when they do start remediation of some properties in Bliss Corner area. So hope to have that access agreement finalized. It's with council now and the EPA, EPA council. So that'll be at a future select board meeting for your approval. Lake Nokichoke, I have no new updates.
Okay. All right. Anything on that, gentlemen? All right. Minutes. We have the minutes of December 20th and January 10th.
Motion to approve as written.
I have a comment.
On the minutes?
10th, yes.
Okay, well, let's just get it on, let's get it, motion made by Mr. Herron, seconded by
Me.
Mr. Gracie. Okay, on the motion, discussion, Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yeah, on page 70, which is Article F, Department of Public Works Water Quality Notice. The last sentence says the select board discussed all communications and further articles go through Tim Barber. And it says in the select board, I believe it was going to go through Sean McGinnis, the town administrator.
Was
It's
this
too
the
cumbersome to
Janu-
have the select.
Was this the January meeting?
Yes, January 10, page 70. Article F, Department of Public Works Water Quality Notice.
Right, it shouldn't say select board, it should say town administrator.
Right.
Okay, we'll revise that.
So is that a motion to revise the minutes to reflect it
Yes.
to reflect the removal of, so the sentence will now read, the select board discuss all communications and further articles go through Tim Barber and the town administrator, Sean McGinnis.
That's my
Make
motion.
that motion amended, yes.
Okay, motion was made by Mr. Tattelbaum, seconded by
Oh.
Mr. Herron. That's okay, no
Yep.
problem. We'll work out this. It's like Hollywood
Yep.
Squares here. All right. On the motion to accept as amended the minutes of January 10th and to accept the minutes of December 20th, roll call, Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, gentlemen, that concludes our meeting for the night. Next meeting of the board, I believe, is February 7th. If I'm not mistaken, let me take a look. Yep,
Correct.
February 7th.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, anything else? Members,
Motion to adjourn.
motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Herron. I can tell him just ready to
Yes.
come in there to say something. So on
Yes,
the motion,
second.
any questions? All right, roll call vote, Mr. Tattelbaum.
What am I gonna say?
You better say yes.
Yes, I
Thank
thought you could
you.
tell.
Uh,
Yes.
Far from me to strong arm
Influence.
you into a decision.
Don't influence him.
All right, I'm not going to influence him. I'm not
Yes.
an influencer. All right, Mr. Tattelbaum is a yes. Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yeah.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Thank you so enthusiastically, and the chair votes in favor. All right, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned for the evening, and we will see you on the 7th.
Great job, Sean.